I've got an awesome singer on the show. I really do have an awesome singer on the show, Mr. Claude McKnight from Take 6. Take 6, the greatest vocal group in the universe. Seriously, go to any planet in the universe, make them sing for you, and you'll say, not as good as Take 6. Now listen, he's in LA, I'm in Chicago, we had to do the distance thing here, and just to make it easier, we did what the rest of the world is doing. We just jumped on Zoom. So this might not be as clear as you're used to hearing from the show, because I basically just pressed record. We grabbed the Zoom audio and I slapped it into the episode, but it doesn't matter because his concepts, his ideas, his personality are all crystal clear. It's all you ever needed in a show. Trust me, that's enough of me talking. Enjoy. Here we go. All right, here we go. We're going to start this thing right now. So boom, let me just adjust our little view here. And there it is. So, folks, this is a chatter of fact. Again, these are not interviews. They are conversations. And man, oh man, I have a fella from the mighty Take 6. Claude McKnight, say hello to the world.
What's going on? What's happening?
I got to tell you something, man. It's exciting to have you. You're right there. I mean, typically people are in the room, but there you are.
Dude, I'm in the room, man. We're right here.
I'm telling. Give me a hello. Hello. Come on, give me a hello.
That's pretty good. Hello.
I can retire now because I just sang with a member from Take 6, so it's over. Listen, man, I have to tell you this. I know you're limited on time. There's a certain style to singing. There's an acrobatic style. There's an ability that people have, and we love that, and we love the abilities, but it's not often that people are able to take technique and marry it with a soulfulness. And by soulfulness, I mean the emotional content. Mm-hmm. I think it's it's rarefied air. I think Stevie Wonder pulls it off. I think Aretha pulled it off. I think Take 6 pulls it off. You know, I think you guys are in this elite group of singers who utilize the ability, but you match it with emotional content as opposed to somebody who learns the trick and just does the trick. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So I absolutely know what you're talking about. Those people who are able to do that are song stylists, you know? And for me, if you can give the emotion of what the song is asking for to the audience, you are a song stylist. And that doesn't happen with tricks. It doesn't happen with anything other than, did I convince you that what it is I was singing about was real? Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different world. It's almost like they're possibly the stylist, but if they're the stylist, then you guys are like the whole salon. You own the whole thing. But so the other thing I got to tell you, the first time you blipped on my radar, I don't remember whether it was the Grammys or the American Music Awards. It was the first time. I hadn't heard of the group, but it was on one of those shows. I think you guys were wearing like white shirts with a red vest. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you at all. And it was like either the American Music Awards or the Grammys. And this was early on.
I'm pretty sure it had to have been the Grammys because we have been on the Grammys quite a few times. I'm not sure that we've ever actually been to the American Music Awards. Okay. So this was early on. This,
you guys did the If You Ever. And what I always remembered is I hadn't heard of you, and you guys, as soon as the camera focused on the stage, you saw the silhouette of Stevie Wonder in the front row standing up, and he was in it from the beginning of your set. And then you struck me because it's this skinny guy just going minute by minute, and I had never heard that type of harmony, and I'd never heard a delivery. And I think the whole group is super talented. But for me personally, there's something about what Mark Kibble and what Claude McKnight brought to the table. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but the Temptations, that kind of David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks thing, you guys have that sort of identity and that impact. Do you feel that ever?
We do. I think from the very beginning, because Mark and I actually go back to the very beginning of this group. And I think because our voices are so different, but they're both very expressive, we've been able to be kind of the imprint of what the group sounds like. So in that sense, it is like the Temps, where you had, Eddie, and you had, whoever else that was in and out of the group. You knew those two guys who were on top, and that was the sound. And then, of course, you had the bass, which gave a whole nother level of awareness to what's going on. And that's Alvin for us. So, so Mark and I are kind of the sound of the group. And Mark is the primary arranger of the group.
Okay, now was that always the case? And again, this is weird. I know we're limited on time. And I also know that anybody can YouTube so many origin stories on you guys, and I was so excited to have you on, but because I consider you one of the best singers on the planet, but also to focus on your individual story. But that being said, it's kind of common knowledge that you guys started out as 5, and then Mark kind of met you guys, and it sort of happened. Is that right?
We started out as 4. I started out the group as a freshman at Oakwood College, which is now Oakwood University, in Huntsville, Alabama. And we were basically doing almost barbershop style stuff. And the official story, which is real, is that Mark came into a restroom where we were rehearsing and added a 5th part to what we were doing and joined the group and started arranging for the group. But because all of the guys who were in that group at the time really loved jazz, we started getting into the extended chords and stuff that Mark was arranging. And so we added one more member because he was like, look, I need more.
Wow. And that's kind of unheard of in the a cappella realm. You don't think of that. You think of, if anything, 3 or 4 singers and a bass, the part singers. So the 6th thing for that style, and then to make it mainstream, that's crazy. So was Mark, when he entered, then did he primarily become writer, arranger, or because I know Mervyn Warren had a lot to do with that stuff too, right?
Right. So Mervyn was the 6th person that we brought in. Okay. And Mark and Merv went to high school together. So they were already in groups together and both arranging. And so there was like a healthy competition between the two of them. So now we had 2 amazing arrangers in this group that I started. And so I think what happened was, again, because we all grew up listening to jazz, we all played instruments. I'm a trombone player. So I grew up playing in jazz bands in junior high and high school and all of that. So we already could hear that kind of stuff. So we just wanted to do what we could hear and then played with our voices.
That's nuts, man. And again, going back to you, there's this small space that you live in, what the emotional movement we talked about earlier. But then besides that, there are falsetto singers, and then there are singers who can sing falsetto. I'm a singer who can sing falsetto. You're a falsetto singer. And again, if I didn't have you on my show, I would be, and have said this about you again and again and again, there's very specific voices that you can identify in music that'll go on forever. I think Eddie Kendricks, I think Philip Bailey, you're in this kind of top 3 to 5 people. It's a very identifiable voice. And I don't know if you're as aware of that because you're doing it.
Oh, it's funny because I'm only aware of it when people tell me. Even like my brother Brian tells me those kinds of things. And he'll say something like, I can always hear your big mouth.
Well, it's funny because you have to blend, right? We all have to blend, but then you need that special sauce, and it's that 1 or 2 or 3 different sounds that make it work. And your sound is so identifiable, yet it blends, and it just makes that magical one-of-a-kind blend that can only happen in your group, I'm
going to tell you something that I believe will be maybe the first time I'm saying this out loud. So this is a scoop for you. What I know about me and what I bring to this group is the fact that I'm a natural baritone. That's where I actually started. But because I grew up listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I grew up listening to the Stylistics and the Temps and all of these other groups, I could sing the top part. But what I would do is I never wanted to sing without vibrato or without you know, these other things that a lot of a cappella groups are known for because they want to all be homogenous.
Yeah.
And so Mark and myself and Merv, we brought all of that stuff to this group without shaving that stuff off. So what you hear is my voice, not trying to blend with Mark in the way that we're trying to sound alike, but we're trying to just get the best of what it is we do together and make those things do like this and just rise in the chord structures. So when I'm singing high, it's something like, instead of, you know, now I can do that depending on what the arrangement calls for. But what we do is we feed off of what the guy singing the melody is doing. So if I'm vibratoing it, everybody else except the bass is doing the same thing. So that you get this rich thing that happens that I think Take Six was one of the first a cappella groups to do it like that.
That is a scoop, the baritone thing. I got to tell you, this might not even make any sense, but as you say that, it's so interesting because I can hear this. There's a deepness to your falsetto, and you know, we're talking chest voice, head voice, we're talking all the different placements. But I wonder if that's what attributes to you having kind of a deeper false sound is the baritone vibe. I wouldn't even know how that marriage can really happen when you're talking about where the placement is. But do you know what I mean?
So yeah. So I'm going to give you a couple other things. So probably my three favorite male singers of all time are Marvin Gaye, Michael McDonald, and James Ingram. So the reason I'm telling you that is I have elements, I believe, of all three of them. And certainly the Michael McDonald part, he has a covered sound to his voice, even in his high register. And so I grew up listening to that, and I can't get out of the way of that at all. So my vibrato and my falsetto always has elements of that covered, almost darker tone to it.
Yeah, I guess that's what adds to that unique sound. That is insane. I love picking apart and finding those little bits, because in the end, we all kind of pull from those other people. You know, it's like I remember I started out only being able to do a smoky thing, and that's all I could do. And then I was forced to stay away from kind of the Motown R&B thing in my first group because it was the 80s and nobody wanted to sing it. So they're making me sing John Cougar Mellencamp. Nothing against him. But oddly enough, when I started learning how to go, come on, baby, make it, all of a sudden, when I went back to Motown, I could go, I know you want it. So they fed each other.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing ever. I hope I'm not cutting out on you here. But yeah, it was.
You're fine.
So it's the weirdest thing how those marriages happen. And hearing that, as soon as you said Michael McDonald, that was like an aha moment for me. Like, oh, of course, I can hear that now, you know? Oh, it's crazy.
Everybody who knows me knows that is my dude, you know? So I've always brought that. And sometimes I have to divorce myself of that when I'm singing, because sometimes I need a lighter and smaller sound on top, you know, more in the El DeBarge kind of thing, you know, who's one of my heroes as well, El and Bobby DeBarge. But those guys are real first tenors.
Yeah.
You know, or even Kayvon Edmonds from After Seven.
Yes.
You know, who's one of my absolute favorite tenors.
That's a distinct sound. That dude has another. So it's, you know, I usually don't want to jump to the lessons for the singers and the people in the industry or who want to break into the industry on the show this early. But now that we're on the topic, I mean, from the get-go, you've made a living out of singing with that emotional content I was talking about. And I've mentioned it on the show before, how we live in this odd sort of American Idol mindset that I think forces singers to think they have to use every trick in the book. Right. And they're using too much of this and not enough of this, you know? And I don't know, you know, again, my listeners know I was trained by a bunch of 60-year-old soul singers when I was 18. And I think that helped, you know, my travels. But, you know, how have you maintained that? Or what can you tell the younger people that? Because they don't all get it.
They don't get it. I think we're all products of what it is we have grown up in. So I can't fault people for only, or for having a huge influence by shows like American Idol and stuff. I can't fault them for that. Wow. But I think that's another reason why I actually coach vocalists as well, because I think it is very, very, very important to find out who you are. And once you find that out and you can be authentic in it, I think you start realizing as you learn certain songs, the song will tell you what to do. Now, that may not sound like it makes sense, but I think as a singer, you know what I mean. Yeah. What is the song telling you to do? And the only way you can know that is, do you know the song? Or are you just ready to put licks and rolls and stuff at the end of phrases? The song didn't ask you to do that.
See, that people would climb mountains for words like that from you. So I'm so glad that we have the internet.
Exactly. What is the song asking you to do? And just go back to like what Miles Davis would say. We'd hear this amazing, guy, and he'd say, why are you playing so many notes? It's that kind of thing. You don't have to be verbose.
Let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this, because when I was a kid, the first guys that trained me, I saw them and they were singing from the heart, and then one of my early mentors sat me down for that Motown 25 show when Marvin, it was his last TV appearance, and he's saying, what's going on? And my first mentor said, just look at him. He's feeling the song. He's not singing the song. He's feeling the song. Yeah. And that, I don't know, I was in the 8th grade. That sent me down a path. So you're here now and you got it. But what put you on that path? What is it? Was it church? What was it that got you there emotionally?
You know what I think is a combination of things. Part of it is church. Part of it is just listening to a lot of different vocalists and picking it apart for myself as to what is it about this particular vocalist that I'm feeling, and why, or why don't I feel something from this particular vocalist?
Wow.
And if you can be honest with yourself about your feelings in that, then you start listening to the ones that resonate more and more with you. And that's what I started doing. And that's why I can name certain people that, for me, they do it. Now, because music is also subjective, that doesn't mean that any of us are right in our opinions.
Yeah.
All it really means is, can I be authentic? And when you're authentic in whatever it is you're doing, even if it's a bunch of rolls and runs and stuff, if you're authentic in that, people will feel that too. But don't just do it because you think that's what people want to hear.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people can go through a dozen of those types of singers and not realizing why they have no problem quickly going through them. Yet when you find that one, you keep going back and you don't know why. I don't think the people even know why, but it brings them back, And
that's why I tell people all the time, especially when I'm coaching them, listen to everything you can, including things and in genres and stuff that you might not necessarily be hooked into, because you can start hearing things that make sense for you from an authentic standpoint. I don't listen to a lot of country music, but Vince Gill is one of my favorite singers.
Yeah.
There's certain things that Vince does that I'm like, only he can do. There's certain things that only James Taylor can do his way. Bobby Caldwell, Marvin, all these people, Marvin Winans, who to me is one of the most amazing singers, gospel singer who grew up in that Sam Cooke type thing. And he can do all the stuff you want to hear, but he does it in a way that it's like, oh man, just give me a little bit more. So it's so tasty. That's what you want from a singer, is to not be satiated by what they do, but to almost say, more, please, more, when it's over. That's what you really want.
Yeah, man. God. Wait a minute. So are you saying that people have the ability, people can find you and get voice lessons from you? Is there some place to find that? Or is there just is it a secret knock on a door? Is it?
Well, I do 99% of my vocal coaching online because, until this year, we traveled a whole lot.
How does one make that happen? How do people do that?
They can reach me two ways. They can either do it straight into my email, Claude@take6.com, and ask for, what it is they want from me, and I can give them the rate and everything, or they can go to singingsuccess.com. And that's a gentleman named Brett Manning who lives in Nashville, Tennessee. He has that organization. So I teach style with his organization. So one of two ways. And man, I have a great time coaching people because I'm passionate about wanting people, and I'm not trying to change anything that anybody does. What I do is try to make you look inward and find out how many more tools you can put in your toolbox to use that are authentically you.
How in this current climate, how many students are you juggling?
Let's just say I'm doing pretty well.
You're going to retire from the stage, are you?
Hey, man, you know, work smarter, not harder. How about that?
These are weird times, aren't they? Because I've never done much tracking at home. I've just got, I have my favorite little spots, and it's just I do show after show after show. And now to try to get used to tracking at home, that's been fun, but I can't even say it's about being in front of an audience as much as it's that right that we have, that privilege to be on a stage for our jobs and to just give everything you have. And, that's not something you can always do in the office.
Right.
And that's probably where I'm feeling the most lost right now, is just that ability to just, if I just blow out at 1 a.m. right now, that time a year ago, people would say, more, we're going to have to hear more. Where this time, my wife will come out of the bedroom and say, knock it off.
Right. Exactly.
How are you handling that? It's a little tricky, man.
Well, it's very tricky when you sing in a group because we can't rehearse, we can't go out on the road and do anything. Yeah. So what we are doing, which we've done before, but now we can only do, is to record by ourselves and send files around and do that kind of thing, which isn't the optimal way to do it, especially when you're used to having the camaraderie. That's the thing that I miss most, is the camaraderie of my guys. We've been together 30 years, so to be doing things remotely, it's really weird, but you pivot and you figure it out. And that's what we're doing. And in fact, this would be a great opportunity for me to just say that we just re-recorded our very first single, which is called Spread Love. And we posted it to social media, and it's the Spread Love 2020 Challenge. That's the hashtag. Okay. Spread Love 2020 Challenge. And man, what we decided to do was not only to release it, but to tell people of any creative ilk, take our stems, which are the tracks that we recorded and are available on our website, take them and do whatever you want with them, re-record, remix it, do whatever, and then post it with that hashtag. And so we've gotten some amazing submissions from people.
How varied is it? They're adding vocals, or they're just remixing instruments? Are you seeing everything?
A little bit of everything. Yeah. In fact, we're going to be talking to a gentleman actually later who used some of our vocals, and then he added vocals and he changed it into a whole minor theme and whatnot and instruments. And it is so cool. And I'm like, man, we should have written the song like this.
Yeah, I did see the video, that the post. That was fantastic, man. Mm-hmm. It took some bravery and I guess love of the genre, because you think of guys at around the same time that you guys were popping, or a little bit later, the Boys to Men or Color Me Bad, and a lot of these groups started out as a cappella groups, and as soon as they got the call, they were put into a studio, and all the music was added. And for you guys to go, you already had such a high level game to you, and the music, not only the arrangements, but the originals were fantastic, fantastic and clever and smart. The lyrical content for some of the original stuff was just as witty and quick as the vocal content. You know what I mean? And that was impressive. But you guys stuck with the a cappella thing, and that's the tricky move. Those first two CDs especially. And by the way, I love everything you guys have done. When you got people that love it and are high level like you guys, even the stuff that when you ended up adding music, fantastic. But I thought it was so incredible that you guys braved through, just staying true to the acapella, so much so that no matter what you guys do, you guys can come out with an orchestra. At some point, myself and everyone in that crowd still going to be waiting for that moment when you're acapella, you know? So you've
And
defined
that's what we found that even when we've tried to buck that at times.
Did you?
And not because we don't want to be a cappella, because we know that's who we are. Yeah. But, as a creative person, you're like, okay, let's do this now. Let's do this now. And we've done all these other things, but we know that our core audience is like, hey, this is what I need from you. I need some of this a cappella. And that's what we're really, really good at. That's what we love. And again, that's who we are authentically. And let me go back and tell you this. One of the reasons why no one ever tried to change what it is we did was because we were initially signed to Warner Brothers Nashville, which meant that we were signed to the country music division of Warner Brothers Records. So what that really meant was the guy who signed us had enough wherewithal, and he told us after we did this showcase, he said, I love your music. I have no idea what we're going to do with it. But if you would sign with me, we'll figure it out. So they didn't send any producers in there with us. They didn't tell us what songs we had to do or any of that kind of stuff, because it was basically a little vanity project for him. And I remember him saying, if we sell 25,000 copies or whatever, it'll be great. We were like, oh, cool, man. And then that album sold over 2 million copies, you know? And, we went to the Grammys and we won 2 and we were nominated for Best New Artist and all of this stuff. And it was like, okay, I guess we're really in the music business now. But no one tried to change us because they couldn't. They was like, they didn't know what to do with it.
So, all right, let's focus. Let's focus on you now. So, you picked up singing. How old were you when you?
Oh man, I've been singing since I probably came out of the womb. Everybody in my family on my mom's side is very, very musical. I have 3 brothers, and we grew up singing in a quartet together. So we would sing in church. We sang all over the place, man. And my mom was a pianist and my grandfather was the choir director. So as early as I can remember, I was singing.
When did the bug hit you though? Like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is the love of my life right now.
Okay.
Did you have a moment?
No. This is what happened. Because remember I told you earlier, I'm a trombone player. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. I'm old enough to have wanted to play in the Tonight Show band back when Doc Severinsen was there. So, man, that's what I wanted to do. The reason I started a group in college is because I could always sing, but I was so shy and introverted, but I didn't want to be a solo artist. So I started a group so that there would be safety in numbers. And so when you ask the question, when did I know? I didn't know that I was going to be doing this for a vocation. I honestly thought that I'd be doing orchestrations and playing in jazz bands. And then all of a sudden I'm singing in this group as a hobby and then we get a record deal. I was like, what?
So you start doing it. You obviously had to start, loving it and having fun with it. What started happening in that course? I'm sure then you're right. That's not one moment. There were probably a couple of moments. Are there a couple of earmarks that you remember? Step 1, 2, 3, like, oh, wait a minute. All right, now I'm getting more into this. How did that evolution happen? You remember? I'm walking you down the memory lane.
Yeah. It's funny because that evolution honestly took from the time I started the group in college until probably 7 or 8 years into our professional experience.
What? Well, all right. So you're in the pros now. You're in the big leagues, and It still wasn't totally. You weren't totally mentally all in as far as, this is it. This is where I'm going to live for the next 30 years. Yeah,
it's funny because I don't think that I was comfortable because being on stage, even to this day, is not my natural environment. But I believe that because people really, really enjoy what it is we do, it really gives me a sense of spirituality, gives me a sense of belonging and loving what it is I do. But I'm not naturally a performer. I can play one on TV, but I'm learning how to do this. And that's what's also interesting, and I'm loving it, because I don't ever want to get to a place where I'm phoning in a performance because I'm just so comfortable doing it. So, and that's another thing I coach with my students. I'm like, always be ready to learn. Always use what you have that evening. If you're nervous that evening, use that. If you're in poor voice or poor shape or whatever, use that. Because again, remember, what is the song asking you to do? It's asking you to be authentic and to emotionally be available. So no matter what the song is, if I'm not in a good mood that night or whatever, I got to use that to convince you that what it is I'm singing, I believe. And I've had many performances that have worked that way. And after the fact, I'm like, man, I worked that.
Yeah. Okay. You're, I think you're brilliant, and you might, we might be best friends. I have to tell you, I had a vocalist on, a couple shows ago. It might have been Yvonne Gage. Yvonne Gage, by the way, has sang every commercial you've ever heard in your life.
Oh.
What would you do for a Klondike bar? Anything from your youth.
Yeah.
But I was talking about the emotional content thing, because people give you that hard time. What if you had a bad day? What if you have a good day? And again, my listeners have heard this, but wow, I have to share this with you. I personally take whatever I went through that day and I turn it into what I call a neutral ball of energy. So then it's neutral. So then whatever it is, it's the energy of what you're feeling, and it's real and it's emotional. And I've been living that code since I was a kid. And to hear somebody from the greatest singing group I've ever heard actually say that that's something they believe in, that's the second time. Singing with you was the first, Mark, but now I know I can retire. I might just walk out and just leave you here for the listeners now. I'm gonna. That means the world, because I mean, don't you feel like? And then when you're up there, it's all about doing the best you can that night. You know, I'm never trying to do the greatest show. I'm trying to do my greatest show. And you know this as well as I do, because I've been on some shows with some of the biggest performers in the world, because I work in the corporate market. Mm-hmm. You know, we have our big shows at wherever, or you have your big shows where it's all your fans, but then you get the random corporate show, which is always very interesting. And to me, those are the ones where those are the shows where you can really see if someone's putting their all in or not. And my personal opinion is, if it's a crappy room, or man, we had one where the whole place emptied out and just the staff of the event center was there. And the client said, well, we'd like you to still perform for them. And it didn't matter. It's once I'm up there, I'm going to put on the best show I can give,
yes.
That night.
Yep.
And don't you agree? It doesn't have to be the greatest show of all time, but make it your greatest show that night.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to give you an example of that, remember I told you that we were signed to Warner Brothers Nashville. The way we got that deal was we did a showcase in Nashville. We invited all of these record labels and all of these people, and about 5 people showed up. And we literally got on stage and gave our best performance in that moment, not knowing that the president of Warner Brothers Nashville just happened to walk in. So I tell people all the time, be in the moment. I don't care what the moment is, be in that moment. Kind of like Michael Jordan. If you watch the documentary that came on, he was always in a place that he didn't want you to leave after playing him and say, he was just okay. You know, who wants that? And as a singer or a performer or whatever, if you give your all in every performance, it doesn't have to be all the right notes. It doesn't have to be anything other than I gave my blood, sweat, and tears tonight. And people will walk away saying, wow.
When is your book coming out, man?
I
know, right? All you need is somebody to follow you around while you just speak, you know?
You know, it's funny. I've heard that before, and it's interesting. I know we're kind of playing, but I think, in this business, and you know this, experience counts for a lot.
As far as playing goes, what I'm saying is only funny because it's true. You know, and the funny thing is you probably could to gather a few interviews and such and just stuff that you spout instead of, you know, I think it's harder to sit down and try to pound out the ideas, but you're a very inspirational speaker when you're in the moment because you're genuine, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I live it, man. And again, I'm not a natural performer, but I've learned to do so. And so I think I'm always slightly nervous.
That's amazing. Let me ask you this, man. So when you get signed, that you already know that's kind of a game changer, you know. What's going on through your mind? Like, let's even step back from the vocalizing thing, because we know that you guys were great. We know that you're great, and that's why you get the deal. And I think we all know, you know, you're great. You get in there, you have to do a studio thing. You have to perform. You have to be great. But if you go underneath all that, you know, you're a kid and suddenly life is starting to change, and it's changing in a way that you didn't even plan on. You know, what was the culture shock, you know, because it sounds like things started moving fast once they started, you know, so what was kind of having you sort of wide-eyed when you weren't on the mic where you were comfortable?
Well, I think what happened for us was things happened so quickly that we didn't have any time to sit back and think about what was going on. So we got signed literally the next day after doing the showcase.
How old were you?
I was 24, going on 25 at the time, and I was the oldest in the group. You know, there are guys at the time, what are they, 5, 6 years younger than me? You know, so they were really kids. We came from this small Christian college, and all of a sudden now we're recording artists. So 20 days later, we're in the studio learning how to do this and singing songs that we had sung for years or whatever. And everything was being done on the fly, you know? So we had no time to be like, hey fellas, you know, we got to deal with Warner Brothers, you know, none of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, we get this notice that we're nominated for 3 Grammys and whatnot. We sing on the Grammys. Stevie buys like 500 albums and passing them out. Quincy Jones is our friend, and you know, all of this kind of stuff. And I know I'm throwing names out. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what was happening at the time. Miles Davis is showing up, and we're meeting him, and it's crazy, man. We had no time to sit around and think about what was going on. We met everybody within those first 2 years or so. And it was crazy. It's almost like, I guess this is just supposed to happen.
What out of everybody, do you remember the first time you were really starstruck by somebody?
Yeah, I can. Remember I told you my favorite singers. So the year before our album came out, I actually went to the Grammys, and they were in New York, and it was 1987. We had just been signed, so we're working on our album, and I meet James Ingram. And all he said when I was like, hey, I'm Claude McKnight. He's like, yeah, we'll be there, brother. I was like, oh, that's all I needed to hear.
He knew what to say.
Man, I tell you.
Oh, that's amazing.
And since that time, I mean, man, we've recorded with so many people, and I only think about it when we're being interviewed or talking about it. I mean, everybody from Kenny Rogers to Don Henley to Randy Travis to Quincy a bunch of times, to Stevie a bunch of times, Queen Latifah, all these people. But what we have found is they're all just regular, really cool people. And that's what's amazing about it. We haven't met anybody in our career that has just been full of themselves, you know?
That's the most amazing thing. And, you know, being a celebrity like yourself, living in this kind of Instagram social media world, everybody sees everything. And I love how active you are on Instagram. I love the connection you have with your fans. You know, I was a fan and I got to see it. And I was very surprised that, you know, you respond to people and you're so kind when they're commenting, if you can, because people out there, he's busy. He's very, very busy, even during this time. This is you know, but I can see the effort you put forth, and that, you know, that's a beautiful thing, because how did your fans are, you are still in a certain niche, and your fans are kind of niche fans. So the fans that love you, they're going to be diehard around the world, you know, and how do you handle the that sudden attention? Because I think it's wonderful at first, but then after a while, you know, that can be daunting. How do you handle the daunting? Or
it can be. I think the cool thing, and I'm kind of putting my hands up as like a balancing thing, is I don't think that my group has ever commercially been crazy huge. That's a different kind of animal. You know, we've been critically huge as far as the awards, and I suppose the respect and stuff that a lot of musicians and people who are really into music have really gotten into us. But that's a whole different level that we've never really experienced. And I don't know that we're supposed to, you know. Now, don't get me wrong. If 50 million people all of a sudden want to, you know, I won't turn it down. But I think there's something to be said about being at a level where you can still have a certain amount of anonymity in being in a group, and a certain amount of respect because people know what it is you do and they either really like it or they don't. It's not like this animal where we're under a microscope all the time and people see everything we do and everything, because we're Take Six and we've got a nice long career, but you know, we're not a household name. And
how do you navigate that career when you hit so big, but it's that because you're such a special group, and again, to most people who know better, you guys should be the biggest group of all time or one of them, you know. But knowing that, has it been pretty smooth sailing because of that? Because you guys have had a nice even keel career, it seems. You know, you guys have been able to, I'm sure there are dips and just like, because trends, no matter how, but you guys have had what I would consider a very comfortable existence, being able to keep doing what you're doing, yet not having to worry about every trip to a coffee shop, you know.
Right.
How that's there must be some comfort in there.
There's a lot of comfort in there. I mean, you have to also understand, and I'm sure you know this as you're talking about my group. Think about this. We are essentially a contemporary Christian a cappella pop jazz group, you know, and that's what we said from the very beginning. And that's where we're most comfortable. So whether or not we have radio hits or not, you either really buy into what this group is about or you don't. So that's how we've been able to have a career that sustains for a long time, because we have a lot of people who like that.
There's and it must surprise you how many of them, how many mainstream players are just so nuts. Like you were listing off those names, but I'd mentioned to you that the last guest was Jim Cregan from the Bare Naked Ladies, and I had no idea that guy was so taken by a cappella, and he used to do that. And they actually, the Bare Naked Ladies did a CD with the Persuasions.
I heard the interview, man, and I heard all of that. He's very, very well versed in all of that stuff. So he's no slouch when it comes to his knowledge of the a cappella groups and the gospel groups. He talked about the Swan Silvertones and all of that.
Yeah, you know, and the Soul Stirrers, they're around my neck of the woods, around Chicago, and they're still doing it. But it was funny when I mentioned that you were going to come on the show, and he's like, "Oh, that guy," and I said something along the lines of, "I don't know if you'll find any better singers anywhere." And the dude from Bare Naked Ladies, Jim, just says, "Well, yeah, where are you going to find better singers than them? Nowhere." And I didn't know if you'd even met them or if you were aware of their fandom.
I had no clue, but we find people like that all the time. Somebody will come up to us who we've admired for a long time, and they'll go back to our very first album and say, "I know this song, this song." I'm like, "What? You like us?"
So let me ask you this: you know, it sounds like you were put on kind of such a fast track that it was hard to really look around, you know. But at the same time, there's a level of success that happens. You know, now there's some financial stability or a certain amount of finances that you know you may not have had before a record deal. What was the first thing? Do you remember the first thing you thought? Okay, I'm going to treat myself to this. You know.
Wow. One of the first things I did was I bought a house in Nashville. Most of us were living in Nashville at the time. And when we first moved there, when we first got the record deal, 3 of us were living in an apartment together, because we hadn't made any money yet. We hadn't sold any records. So we were basically struggling to make ends meet while we were doing that first album. Then when that first royalty check came in and things looked kind of cool, I was like, let me go buy a crib. And I lived in that place up until 2012 when I moved to LA.
I'm picturing the great Claude McKnight walking through an empty house, just making sure the acoustics are good. Like, oh, wait, this is a dining room? Minute. Yeah, it's a bedroom? Minute. All right. So that's all I picture. Just looking for the echo. No, man, but okay, so, but then you've become a California dude. How long have you been out on the West Coast?
I've been in California for 8 years now. Oh,
really? So what lured you out there? Weather or Nashville's got pretty good weather.
Nashville has good weather, but you got to realize I lived in Nashville for 25 years, and I love Nashville. I could probably move back there, especially as it continues to grow up. I just felt like at some point I would probably move from Nashville, and I've always loved LA. I love the weather. I love the sense of being able to be outside and work out and just all of that stuff. And I had bought a motorcycle. I had a Harley. I was like, one day I'm going to ride that on PCH. And, so it was all kind of a romantic kind of thing for me. And so I finally moved, and it's been a really, really cool experience.
Yeah. How long have you been in your current place?
My current place, only about 3 years. So when I first moved here, I moved to the Valley, and I quickly realized that the Valley, first of all, was extremely hot. Really? It was ridiculously hot in the Valley. And remember, I had this motorcycle at the time, and I was like, "Oh Lord, I can't ride this thing out there," And it's very, let's just say, it's a little slower than I like. So I live very close to downtown now, and I have this amazing view, and I like the energy, because I'm originally from New York, and I like that kind of energy to go outside my place and there's people, and if I don't want to see them, I'd go back up in my tower.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. What is your jam? What kind of cuisine? What brings Claude McKnight out of the house and into a place? What is it?
Oh my gosh. Anything Italian.
Really?
Oh man. Yeah.
That explains this big workout regime that you have now, this regimen, because you got to work off the pasta. That's why you're all fit and bulky now.
Man, I can eat a whole pizza by myself. I've always loved Italian food, whether or not I'm in America or Italy or wherever. I'm like, yo, get me something Italian right now.
Do you have that one or two favorite all-time dishes?
You know what? I'm pretty simple, man. Give me a really good lasagna, man. I love lasagna, and I could eat pizza every day. Yeah. Now,
I like both. I'm a Chicago guy, but I like the thin New York style because I love the sauce and I love the cheese and I like the slice. But then there's something about the Chicago brick. I love that as well. So are you an overall?
We must be friends then, because we are rare. Most people like either or. And I'm like, give me the thick, give me the thin. If it's called pizza, I'll eat it.
See, now these are the scoops that the fans don't usually get, Claude.
Right.
Well, I know you got to go. I'll let you go in a little bit. When we're talking about the music thing, does it call you out to keep writing? Do you adore writing, or are you more of a fan of just taking the arrangements as they come in and do the thing, or?
It really depends for me on what it is I'm in the mood for. I think a lot of my creativity is mood driven. Sometimes I'm in a really creative space to write, and I'm a melody writer mostly. I have melodies all day, every day. That's for me. It's like driving and seeing a new thing. And I'm like, oh, right turn. Oh, left turn. Fast, slow. That's how a melody is to me. It's supposed to go somewhere. So at times, that's who I am. Other times, I'm really all about wanting to take something that I have loved, i.e. like the song Biggest Part of Me that we remade from the group Ambrosia. I knew when I heard that the very first time, I was like, oh my God, one day I'm going to do this with whatever group I'm singing with. And lo and behold, we did it in 94. And, come to find out, David Pack loves that arrangement. And, it's like, wow, man. But that's always been one of my songs. So I love taking something and saying, I hear it another way.
Yeah, that was a beautiful arrangement too, man. That was great. So moving forward, you guys are recording new material right now?
We're recording a few new things. We're experimenting on what it is we can do, of course, in this new normal, so everybody's writing and stuff. And our latest release, which came out about a year and a half ago, it's called Iconic. And Iconic was a collection of songs that we all kind of grew up with, and we voted on all of these songs, and any song that had at least 4 yeses went into the next round of voting. And so all of a sudden that ended up on the album have at least 5, maybe 6 yeses. And it's the only time in our career that I know every single song is a song that everybody in the group wanted to do.
Wow, that's hard. With that many members and just, the machine, that's really tough.
Yeah, dude, we have Christopher Cross's Sailing on there. Yeah, we have the Clapton tune, Change the World. We had the Norah Jones tune, Don't Know Why. We've
got in this office. That CD is in the. I have quite the collection. So, man, yeah, that was a great CD. But Sailing, really, that one stuck out to me. But man, it's funny, that Ambrosia tune. It's just called for you guys.
Dude, that's my jam.
It's funny. Those particular tunes in the 70s, man, there was something to a lot of those songs that just called out to me, on and on, da, 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 there's just a style and a vibe. Oh, yeah. Man, it's great. Well, it's funny. A lot of people, when I'm closing out, I'm asking, what are you looking forward to? But you have this level of serenity. I see it with your online presence, and I'm seeing it now. You seem like a take it easy kind of guy, and it's the life is coming my way, and I'm just flowing in like another vocal part. Am I right? Or
I think you are right. What it is for me is, and I mentioned this earlier, I have a lot of experiences, and those experiences I continue to allow to shape me into who it is I want to be, and because it's not over yet, I'm enjoying the process, and that's what I try to tell people. Enjoy what's happening, enjoy the signposts, enjoy the detours, enjoy all of those things, and use them as ways to figure out who you are now. And so that's who I am, man. And so what you see is what you get. I'm not some other dude, like once we leave this recording, I'm not going to be pulling the hair out that I don't have.
No, that's a beautiful thing. It seems like you figured out how to be you and how to stay you even in these kind of arenas. And to me, that's the hat trick, because we probably both know quite a few of the people that can turn it on for the camera or the interview or the people, and then the real person is an angry, struggling, person, an angry, struggling person. And I think that's rough. And if you can be yourself in and out, I think that's fantastic. And yeah, you seem really genuine, man.
I appreciate that. I've worked a long time at making sure that is what is actually shown. So it's not a veneer. It's not something that I am trying to do, and I think that's important because people can tell when you're BSing.
Man, I cannot thank you enough. Shame on you, because I thought maybe I could squeeze out 5 more minutes, but you found such a great way to close it out that I can't top it. So you know how to open the book, read the book, and close the book. This is not my show, is it? I think this might be your show today.
Well, I was going to tell you, I hope you've had a good time doing this because it's mine now.
A chatter of Claude. I got to tell you, man, it's been a dream. I can't thank you enough, not only for this and for all the wonderful people that are going to enjoy this. This is the first time I've ever done a Zoom podcast. So thank you for bearing with me on that. But also, I've never had such personal thanks for a guest that I've had on. I've had some amazing people that I admire, but it's nice to be able to have you right here and to personally thank you for the gift of music and just the gifts that you've given me personally. You know, I know a lot of people can say this to you, but it's pretty cool that I can use the platform to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you're a huge influence and you're one of the best of the best. And years from now, when we're all gone, whoever's left is still going to be listening to your stuff, and they are going to be inspired because you're the real deal, man.
I appreciate that. And keep doing what you're doing, man. I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and you have a love for this. And that's important, because that's how you get people to be comfortable and to just talk, man. So this isn't an interview, like you said. It's just two guys or two people just sitting down and chopping it up. Yeah, man. I'll make sure I edit our early duet so that in quarantine times, that'll drop tomorrow, everyone. They will be $95 a download that we'll just split. There we go. Love it. Quarantine inflation. I'll just loop it for 12 minutes. It'll be a 12-minute cut. We're going to make a fortune. Love it. Hey, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Claude. Have a good one, sir. Take care. Bye.
That was awesome. Didn't I tell you he was great? You know, you can tell that Claude's done a lot of Zoom interviews and chats and such because he knew to sort of wait and pause while the other person talks. We had to sort of keep waiting so politely for each other. You can't really talk over each other, nor can you hear each other laugh at jokes and things like that. It's kind of weird, but it does make you very, very polite. Oh, by the way, if you want to see this whole thing, you can go to YouTube and just type in A Chatter of Fact episode 51 or A Chatter of Fact Claude McKnight, and you can see the whole thing. Basically us sitting at home chatting, but that doesn't happen often on this show. So yeah, go to the YouTube channel and check it out if you like. I want to thank Claude for doing this. I want to thank you guys for listening. And hey, by the way, I know the world is still weird. It's still a weird world out there. Just do me a favor, be kind to one another. That's all we can ask, right? Just be kind. Okay, folks, have a great year, have a great month, have a great week, have a great day. Go out and find your smile. Welcome to my life so far. You'd think by now I'd be a star. I may be long-winded, but hey, there's just so much I have to say. Maybe lick your lips when you're hungry. Maybe drop your head when you're sorry. Maybe shake a bit when you're worried. That's